Hello, I'm Wire93. Today we are going to read some stories from our dating horror stories where a man won't let his date call her mom to pick her up, and a 22-year-old tries to date high school girls. If you enjoyed today's stories, please like and subscribe. Now let's get into the stories. Our first story was posted by you/MasterProtection29. Sketchy goes to Stalkerville. So, years ago, before the time of cell phones and crime shows aplenty, I worked in a bar to save up for university. I was also dating BF, who started coming to the bar more, and his friends joined in. One of BF's buddies started hanging out at the bar more and more even though BF wasn't there. Sketchy, I know. The more he tried to initiate conversations and monopolize my time, the more done with his crap I was. Sketchy becomes sketchtastic. I mentioned it to boyfriend a few times, and also tried to get BF to spend time with sketchtastic away from me and bar. Owner asked about sketchtastic more than once and had bouncers enforce rules for paying customers only and other options to get sketchtastic to move on to bigger and brighter bars. BF ended the friendship because sketchtastic kept hanging out even after I repeatedly asked him to mosey on, and BF started his behavior was wrong. Sketchtastic just upped his game and started hanging out in his car after the bar closed to make sure I got to my car safely. Sketchtastic is starting to move into Stalkerville. Shudder, I insisted the bouncers, owner's son, or owner walk me to my car and delay him till I'm safe away from the bar. Owner told him he had to stop or would be permanently banned from the bar. The ban must have scared him or Minnie Mouse, a regular who seriously sounded like Minnie Mouse on helium, fulfilled his chick quota because he eased up, still went to the bar, didn't sit at the bar and watch, no leering at me for the entire shift. He and Minnie usually sat at a table and he actually started to make friends with other regulars. Then I hear through the bar gossip grapevine sketchtastic drove his car into Minnie's apartment and was arrested. Minnie, sporting an amazing black eye and broken arm, confirmed this a few days later. She stopped by to warn me sketchtastic was getting out of jail in a few days and he's kind of infatuated with me. Almost on cue, sketchtastic is sitting on the bar stool closest to the bar drop-down server station. You know, the only entrance/exit to the actual bar where I worked. I try my best to just work and ignore him, and only serve his drinks without actually talking. At one point he yells at me, "You fucking incubus! You stole my friend." Now I'm a nerd. I don't mean I know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. I grew up devouring Isaac Asimov's 3 rules and stories and popular science that my dad loaned me. Philip K. Dick, Frank Herbert, and I moaned and groaned all the way through the 80s monstrosity of a movie. I could tell you the year Doctor Who started and how many DRs there were, and when the show went from a half hour to 1 hour. I'm an American. I devour books, it doesn't really matter what, history on ancient civilizations, dynasties, architecture, and random rabbit hole snippets of useless trivia. I've lost days locked in a basement eating cold pizza and chugging warm Mountain Dew while on a D&D weekend gaming bender. So, my nerdy brain screeches to a halt. Incubus, did he just call me an incubus? I waddle over to him. Did you seriously just call me an incubus? Yes. Yes, he did. You mean I'm a succubus? Incubi are male demons who suck the life out of a sexual partner while screwing them. I'm not a male, so ergo I'm a succubus. You do know the difference between them, right? The owner's son. You're a demon in the bedroom. Owner's son and I high-five and have a good laugh. Sketchtastic leaves while sporting a pouty scowl. After closing, owner's son walks me to my car, and as I'm pulling out, sketchtastic starts following me. He wasn't skilled at tailing someone, and after my third left turn and second U-turn, for an absolute fact I'm being tailed. So, I proceeded to aimlessly drive around for 20 minutes at 3:30 in the morning in search of police. Why are the police never around when you need them? Finally, I stumbled upon the fuzz. two cops sitting waiting on the light to change. As I get the red light, I run the light and flash my lights. Yes, in front of two cops they turn on their Disco X-Mos lights and pull me over. I tell them the car sitting at the red trying to figure out how to get out of there without attracting attention has been following me since I left the bar, and I believe it's sketchtastic. And it was. He was arrested again. Lucky for me I never saw him again. The next story is from you/PeachyBeans99. Worst date of my life. Back when I was in high school, I was the type that was looking for their forever person. Looking back, I know how much of an idiot I was. I met this guy on Facebook, and saw we had mutual friends, so I figured it would be safe to talk to him. We start messaging back and forth, and eventually decide to hang out in person. He picks me up while my parents are at work, so they didn't get to meet him. He takes me over to a local store and drags me back to the spray paint section. I say drag because he was tall and I'm only 5 feet 2 inches. Once in the spray paint section, he literally opens a can and sprays it on the floor, and I'm horrified. That was the first red flag. He then asks if I want to catch a movie, and I agree because maybe he just did this to make me laugh. Instead of going to the movies 15 minutes away, he chooses the one that's a little over an hour away. On the way up, he chooses to do some very questionable things. First, he stops to buy chicken strips, and as we are going down the road, flings the plastic bag out the window, which made me angry. He also stops at his house to leave all 4 of his spare tires at home. Then calls his ex asking for money. I'm sitting in the passenger seat thinking to myself that there will be no second date. We end up meeting up with his ex, who gives him money, and then he tells her, "You need to come get your stuff, it's all out on the lawn." She gets upset by this and asks if he can put it somewhere safe until she gets down there. After this awkward interaction, we go to the movies. As I'm getting out of the car, he runs around and picks me up and kisses me. I'm startled by this because no one has ever done this before. We go into the mall that the movie theater is in, and he then proceeds to take me to Victoria's Secret and offer to buy me underwear. He also kisses me on a random tile in the mall that he said he put there. We walk to the theater and my skin is crawling at this point. He then proceeds to sneak me into the movies. I hated every second of this, and thankfully we did not get caught. Once we left, he decided to take the long way home through the mountains. He ends up getting a flat and limps it to cell service. I tell him I'm going to call my mom because I don't want to be here any longer. He takes my phone and says I can't because he will never see me again. I'm horrified by this, and when he finally reached a friend to bring him fix a flat, he asks me if I want to have sex. I tell him no, and he proceeds to tell me, "Well, at least I asked and didn't try to make you horny." I'm sick to my stomach and want to go home. His friends come and we limp the vehicle to the tire center and get something to patch the tire. My mom starts calling as it's 3 a.m. and I'm not home. He doesn't want me to answer, but I tell him if I don't, she will call the cops. He lets me answer and I tell her he got a flat as he is watching my every word. Finally, we head back home, and when we are a block away, he pulls over to kiss me and says I don't have to go home. He says he doesn't think he will ever see me again. So I reassure him that he will because I'm convinced he won't take me home if I say anything else. When I finally make it home, I block him and ended up getting grounded, which was fine by me. The last of the day is by you/Sephenrage. Remembering a girl from high school. Disclaimer: this story is from 17 years ago. All the names have been changed. So I moved to another state the summer between 10th and 11th grade. The new high school that I went to was known for being the richest high school in the state. Many of the kids who went there had BMWs, luxury vehicles and sports cars. It was more common than not. I was definitely not rich though. That's part of the reason I didn't have a GF for very long at that school. No hate from me, and I'm not bitter about it at all. I never was. I just learned very quickly, and I easily accepted the reality that rich kids like to do things that cost money. If you don't have money, it's kind of hard to maintain any kind of a relationship, even a romantic one, with people who have money when you don't. Anyway, let me tell you about a dating horror story that occurred during this time in my life. So I had seen this girl walking up and down the hallways from time to time. She had this really quirky but sexy walk. One foot in front of the other with a shake of her hip with each step. Hard to describe but interesting to see. Let's call her Jane. I didn't have any classes with her, but somehow we met anyway. Well, we started talking and hanging out regularly. We even skipped classes together to hang out with each other. We talked on the phone regularly, and even had phone sex a couple of times. I was pretty sure that we would be high school sweethearts, and that I was gonna lose my virginity to her. Like I said, her name was Jane, but she told me that her name was Angelica. She told me that she was 17 like me and also in 11th grade like I was. She told me that she was rich like the other kids at that school and that she was in all advanced and honors classes. She also said that she didn't care that I wasn't rich and that I didn't have a car. One day I'm walking down the hallway and I'm approached by Jane's friend along with a fellow member of the wrestling team. I had no idea how those two knew each other, but there they were, and they wanted to talk to me. They asked me to join them in the cafeteria. We found a table to sit at. Now remember, at this time I think that Jane's name is actually Angelica. So the guy and the girl tell me, "Look, we need to talk to you about Angelica. First of all, her name is not Angelica. Her name is Jane. Angelica is her little sister's name. She likes that name better, so when you met her she used that name instead. She's also not 17 like you, she's 14. She's not a junior, she's a freshman, and she's not in honors classes, she's in special edition. She's also not rich. She lives in the same trailer park as me and the guy from the wrestling team. We all grew up together and played outside together when we were younger. We've known her for most of our childhoods, and she's been a pathological liar for as long as we can remember. We just talked it over between ourselves and wanted to let you know. It felt like the right thing to do." They went on to tell me other stories about her. Apparently Jane was fascinated by Egypt. So she told people that she was from there, and she was also a direct descendant of Cleopatra. She also claimed that she's ridden camels before. So this bombshell that just unexpectedly exploded on me felt very disturbing. It was a real bummer too. I knew that for her to be messed up like that, something had to be wrong in her home life, but I also knew that I was not qualified or able to help her. So I decided to go ghost on her because I didn't want her problems to affect me. I also knew I'd never be able to believe a word out of her mouth. As time went on, I heard other stories from other students about crazy things Jane had said, so it was all true what this guy and girl were telling me about Jane. Anytime Jane called me from then on, I'd either ignore the call or I'd answer and give an excuse for why I couldn't talk. At school I avoided her by being the first to leave class and just going straight to my next class so that I didn't have to encounter her in the hallways during passing period. The worst part about having to avoid her was the fact that after the last class of the day was over, kids would linger in the halls or in front of the school with their cliques in order to chat and laugh among their friends before going home. At that time she would come over to hang out with me among my group of friends, so I had to stop doing that after school was over and just head straight over to wrestling practice because it was more important to me to avoid her than it was for me to socialize. I dropped out of high school the next year, and I joined the workforce. I was fresh out of high school and working now at age 18. High school was behind me, but I still kept in touch with a few friends. A buddy of mine named Josh told me that he was fooling around with Jane for a while there. I looked at him like, what the F? And this dude tells me, "Oh, it's cool, man. She's a lot hotter this year. She grew her hair longer, dyed it blonde, got some cooler clothes and waxed her upper lip. For the record, I never noticed any hair above her upper lip and I always thought she was a pretty girl. I never understood why he felt the need to convince me that she was hot. So I said, "Dude, you're messing around with a girl that we both know to be mentally ill and you're worried that I'm judging you over what she looks like." He got the point, but he kept doing it for a while until he also dropped out of high school and lost touch with her. So then one day I went to Hastings to buy a CD. As I enter the store I see a flyer with Jane's face on it, and a caption that reads, "This is my daughter Jane. If anyone knows anything about her whereabouts, please call me. I'm her mother and I'm worried and I miss my daughter very much." There was also a phone number listed. 6 months or so goes by and I met with Josh at the food court in the mall to have lunch where he was also working security. Josh tells me, "Dude, you'll never believe who I saw here the other day. It was Jane. She saw me and comes up to me and goes, 'Josh, is that you?' And I was like, no. I'm Josh's twin brother, Jeff." And then she goes, "I never knew Josh had a twin." So then I go, "That's because I went to military school." So then she says, "Oh well, tell Josh that Jane says hi, and that I got kidnapped and taken to California and raped." Then she just walked away. I told Josh about that missing persons flyer with her on it that I'd seen at Hastings however long ago. Sometime later we found out that what really happened was that she ran away from home and stayed at a friend's house for 2 weeks until her friend's parents asked her to leave. I never did see her again after high school. I don't know whatever became of her, but I always hoped that she got the help that she needed. That's all the stories I have for today. Thank you for watching and I hope you like and subscribe. And remember, never trust a nice guy.